every year I'd take different portions of the yard and I would scoop up that dirt and I'd put it into a pile. So just on the corner of where the fences are.
Sure.
And I would build that up, and that's where the grass clippings would go. I mulch also, but I'd always do a big grass cut in the spring and then another one in the fall. And part of what I was doing was building dirt.
This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I'm talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope you are too. Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy. My guest today is Christa Dhimo of Impono, and she is also a New England podcaster, which is where I met Christa. And Christa is also a senior advisor, and I'm going to have her talk about what she does because she does it so much better than I do. I'm not a business person. She is. She can tell you about that. But Christa, thank you so much for being here. I know we're not necessarily talking about business, but I'm still very excited about this because you're so multifaceted.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I appreciate being a guest here. I am a listener also of Grounded in Maine. I love the guests that you have on. I love the things that you talk about. So yes, I'm a senior advisor with Impono, and my specialty is in strategy, performance, and innovation. And most of the work I do is I work with boards and I work with CEOs to help them do better so that the organizations they're in charge of also do better. And I have a focus on the people aspect of business, and then I put all of the various elements of business around that, and that's how I get involved in the performance and just the overall improvement of how business works.
Are there a lot of people like you that do that? I feel like it would be really helpful.
I think so too. I think it depends on who you talk to. I think there's a lot of people out there who think they do a lot of what I do. I will tell you there's a lot of business researchers and academics, and a lot of business industries have turned their noses up, which always seems like an inverse because people think academics are that type. But right. I think especially in the last 10 to 15 years, certainly after the Great Recession, there's a lot of solid empirical evidence that will tell organizations, this is how you want to fix some of your problems. And I'm always stymied. I feel stuck sometimes even when I look at an organization. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is an easy fix. And it's not because Christa's so good at what she does. It's because there's empirical evidence that tells you, okay, here's what you have to do to fix it. And most of the time it's little things. Just tweak this dial here, change this, move this lever, and then things will start humming along. So again, I think that a lot of people would say, oh yeah, that's the kind of work I do, or oh, I know plenty of people like that. But in practice, I haven't found a lot of people who are at least focused on some of the things that I'm focused on. I like looking at things at a long-term view. And, when companies, especially publicly traded companies, when they're being graded on their quarter-over-quarter performance. Sometimes they can't have that longer term view, but there's still ways that you can track things shorter term so that you can satisfy your shareholders or satisfy even your investors if you're privately held or privately backed, while still thinking about long-term gains just by changing some of those dials and tweaking some of the levers.
Okay. And so is there like a typical thing that you focus on, like, not that you focus on, but that you see is pretty common that needs to be tweaked?
A lot of my work, I'm a clutch player, so I'm called in because they have a very short amount of time to do something really big. And I think most of what I've seen is that people start doing work before they're really clear on what it is that they're looking to do. Many times also, there'll be a bunch of people who get into a room and they're throwing a lot of ideas around, and then you have the most dominant force in the room say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And still, there's no real plan. There's just a lot of action and activity that's communicated outward to people. So I think that the most common theme or the common denominator that I see is that they don't give enough space and time to really focus on what they're looking to achieve, what it looks like in order to get there, and then how they probably have the time they need to get there. They're just so panicked that they think there's much less time, or they're looking to build something very elegant in the short amount of time they have, and what they can afford is function. So it might not look so elegant, at least that first iteration, but it'll be functional. And so those are some of the things that I see a lot. And then of course your usual garden variety of issues. It starts at the top with leadership. Sometimes you have leaders who have outgrown their role, or they just don't have the skills to continue in their role, and there's not enough emphasis on some of that development that even CEOs need to continually have. Or you have CEOs and board members who are afraid to have the tough conversations with each other, or even to ask for help. A lot of times people think that if there's a gap and they're not sure how to address something, asking for help automatically means they don't know what they're doing or they're not good at their job. And that's problematic too, because if you have a leader who feels he or she has to have all the answers all the time.
Right. That sounds like it would be a pretty common thing. I
think these days I've seen it more than I used to. There used to be more of an understanding, and sometimes even a pride point, where leaders are like, look, here's my skills. This is why I'm in this job. I'm going to hold the accountability. I'm going to make the tough decisions. I'm going to stand by them, and they're going to be my decisions. I'm going to own them. But I'm not here because I know everything about the business. I have surrounded myself with a team of competent people who also have certain leadership skills to work with me as part of a team to advance our goals or even exceed them in areas where we can accomplish that with the resources we have. And I think you used to see a lot of that, or at least I used to see a lot of that, and I don't see as much of that. And part of that is because there's a hyper-reactive mode that just tends to continue to occur since the Great Recession. I'm not sure that enough companies took the time they needed to reset, catch their breath, be mindful and thoughtful of the growth pace in front of them, and then again put together a plan that's based on your resources that you can tweak and adjust along the way to beat or exceed the goals that you've put together for yourself.
Right. I mean, I imagine, and I mean, as someone not in that field, I would imagine that since that the recession and stuff, like people are just like, we just got to grow, and we got to work and grind, and everyone has to work extra hard, and especially with like since COVID and people went home and there was less being done in the office, and like it just feels like I know that there's been a lot of workforce changes, and I have seen it myself that more is expected from less people as people fall away, and that puts a lot of pressure on relationships at work. And I'm not sure if I'm close to anything, but just from my observations in being an employee, it feels like there's just a lot of pressure of like do more, do better, make more money, and not a lot of emphasis on the relationships at work. Is that?
I would say if first everyone's perception at their job is truth. So if that's how you feel, that is your truth. And I tell a lot of people that, because a lot of times part of the energy that comes around from saying those types of things is very similar to what you're saying. I don't know, is that what it seems like? And so my first response is usually, well, that's what it seems like to you, so yes. Yeah. First of all.
Okay.
The other piece is that when I work with companies that are looking to do big things or looking to recover and reset, one of the first questions I ask is, what's the mission of the organization? And if it takes them a trip around their brain, then that's part of the problem. And you also talked about how people are being asked to do more with less. And actually one of my Ask Christa episodes was talking about, how do I do more with less? And my response to that is, with all due respect for those managers and leaders who think that's a viable and sustainable activity for an organization, it's a stupid phrase. It's dumb. It's just dumb. Like, you can do that for a short amount of time, but you should be looking for getting the best out of your employees, not the most out of your employees. Because if you can get the best every day, you're going to get the most they have to offer. But when you're measuring quantity, then you're turning away from quality, and it's the quality of work you should be looking for. And we could have a full discussion about that. I know that's not what I'm here to talk about, but that's what I've seen. And I think that there's no right or wrong way to work when it comes to what organizations need that's going to be best for their customers. Because if you take care of your customers, everything else falls into line. But I think that turning a focus and an eye toward mission, toward why are we doing this, what's the purpose of the work, I think if you're not starting there, and if people don't have that very closely tethered to why they're also working, all the rest of what you're asking them to do gets harder and harder. Your employees can create arguments as to why they're not going to do something the way you might want them to do it, and if it's not going to impact the mission one way or the other, I don't think you really have an argument back to the employee. But most employees these days, I think the biggest issue I've seen is just that disconnect in terms of mission.
Wow. And so that's really powerful, actually. I mean, that very last part that you said. And so I want to make sure to plug your business. So Impono, how, I assume that you can do work like virtually. You can work with anyone.
I can do work virtually, so I work with other associate consultants. The consultants I work with, we're all independent consultants, and we pull together under this LLC, and then there are times when I work and support other people's business as well. The work that Impono does is mostly in deep science and highly regulated industries. So deep science as well as aviation, aerospace, certain aspects related to defense organizations and contractors that are one or two steps beyond that.
Wow.
Even medical devices, biotechnology, life sciences, things of that nature. So when you're trying to improve the performance and the innovation and the strategy of these organizations, especially the small to small mid-size, maybe you're at about 400 million in revenues per year, it becomes more complex because you have regulations in place, but that doesn't mean everything has to be complicated. Most regulations have a certain amount of space that you can move around. They're not telling you how to run your business. They're telling you you need to control your business. It needs to be safe. It needs to offer products that work. You need to be sure that when you offer products in the public domain, no one's going to get hurt, things of that nature. So it's mostly looking after controls, making sure that you're doing your own audits, making sure that things stay transparent, things of that nature. So that's what Impono does, and I appreciate your interest in letting me talk a little bit about it.
No, of course. And what does Impono mean?
That means structure. So it's a Latin phrase. There's evolved into Italian as well. But the Latin phrase, it just talks about structure and organizing people and organizing scaffolding, that type of work.
Oh, okay. And so I said that I met you through the New England Podcasters group. And so you have a podcast.
I do.
And your podcast is called Ask Christa.
Yeah.
And it's a business podcast.
It is. So it's a business podcast. The tagline is where you can go to ask questions about business challenges and workplace issues. And I do a lot of mentoring, and I do obviously I do advising, but I also do a lot of mentoring, and I do a lot of sideline with early stage and emerging organizations too, and a lot of that work is pro bono. Impono actually has a giving back program where every spring we work with 2 startup or early stage companies with a group of early career associates, and we have the statement of work. We do all of the work that's needed and provide that to an up and coming organization that matches and shares some of the values of Impono. So part of what for probably about 4 or 5 years I consistently heard was, I'm really having an issue right now. And then I thought, oh, instead of trying to figure it out on my own, I'm just going to ask Christa. Or they'll send me a note and say, hey, Christa, I'm really struggling with this issue. I have a manager who shows contempt for me every time I speak up in a meeting. And I don't know if I'm being oversensitive or if this is real, and I certainly don't know how to address it. And then I thought, oh, I should just ask Christa. So many of these mentors or mentees and former associates and certain colleagues even today said, you should do a podcast. You should help people in that way because you've helped me so much. And I said, I can't just do that. Like, I'm doing that for you because you're asking this question, you're bringing a problem to me, and then we have this discussion. So the premise of the podcast is that real listeners send in questions. They can go to askchrista.com, that's Christa with a CH, and they can submit their questions. And I get probably, I'm about 8 months in now, and I get probably between 30 and 50 questions per week. And there are times when I consolidate the questions, and then per season, I'll just run into a theme. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes. It's just me. But they are business challenges and workplace issues. They are things that everybody struggles with. Yeah. I have struggled with it also. I answer the question in a fairly simple way. I acknowledge that it's the problem everybody thinks it is, and then I offer a couple of ways to look at it, but then I also offer different resources. So every episode has between 3 or 4 additional resources. They're usually peer-reviewed papers. It might be an article in Forbes. It might be an article in Harvard Business Review. It might be something from the Indeed editorial team that clarifies certain aspects of a performance review, or something that I think is of value, not just to the listener who asked the question, but to anybody else who might be struggling with some of those challenges or workplace issues.
Right. Right, because questions are not necessarily, one person asking a question doesn't mean it's specific to them. Most often, there are lots of businesses and lots of different types of businesses, and mm-hmm. I'm sure the same thing comes up often. And so that makes the Ask Christa really smart, because you're going to knock a bunch of questions out in one fell swoop, in one
yes.
bite of an episode, which and the most recent one that I listened to was about I'm bored at work.
Yes.
I think that was just a couple weeks ago, but really interesting, and your take is kind of fun, and I love that they're little bites, short 15-minute episodes.
Yes, they're usually between 10 and 15 minutes. I did have one question that was what we call a double barrel question. So I had 2 questions in one. That was my longest episode. It was 24 minutes long. But the question was, it was sent in by somebody who does marketing consulting on the side, and she's also a consumer goods product. She has a new product out. It's I want to plug it. It's balloon water. It's fizzy water. She's up in Toronto, and it's amazing water, by the way. But the question was about raising your rates when you're a solopreneur and you've been working with clients for a long time, mm-hmm. and it's just time to raise your rates. So the first question was how do I go about that? And then the second question was, and how do I get the guts to do
Have
it?
that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the longest one. Most of them are between 10 and 15 minutes. I'd say the average is about 10 minutes. Yeah.
I would think that conversation itself is coming up a lot with like tariffs and stuff. Like you have to add on cost for a lot of things.
You know, the ones that I'm getting the most of right now. So I just finished season 5, which was about career growth. And that was the one you were talking about. That was one of the later episodes in the season. But the one that I'm hearing the most about right now is just how do you manage stress in a stressful environment? And I did something about stress early on. I think it was season 2. It talked about the interdynamics of teams and so forth. But nowadays it's I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, or I haven't been able to find work, or my boss is always stressed out and I just saw him or her yell at a coworker. I feel anxious. When is it going to be my turn? So these are a lot of it's really that workplace inter-team dynamic that comes into play, I think, when just the stress of society is elevated. And I'm so proud and humbled that they're asking me. It's like, that's why I'm doing this. It's not, this is a product of love and intention. This is not something I'm doing so I can go viral. In fact, I think that would probably not be easy for me because I have so many other things going on. I always say if I can just impact one person, then I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right job. But I see that I'm impacting more than just one person most of the time. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of down-to-earth places where people can ask these questions where you're going to get what I believe to be a well-rounded answer based on my experience, but also, again, based on empirical evidence, like this is the equation, this is what works.
Right.
And then offers additional resources. Many times that's half the episode. I'm just saying, okay, here's an article about this. You're going to find it here. It was written in this time. It still holds true. You're going to find these things. Here's the second article I'm providing. And of course, I put everything in chapters so people can just skip around too if they want to. They don't have to listen to the whole episode. They can say, okay, I'm interested in that piece. I hope they listen to the whole episode because they might get something else from the
Right. You never know what else might click.
But I want them to get what they need,
Yeah.
not what I want them to have.
Is that episode out already? The one that you're just talking about?
The one about stress? I had one about stress back in season 2. Just managing stress in general. But that's going to come into season 6, which is going to start airing. I'm going to drop the first episode probably the first or second week in January, so coming up.
Cool.
And that season's about dealing with bad bosses.
Awesome. Okay. And so you said 30 to 50 questions a week?
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Well, I mentor a lot
it's
of
needed.
people, but it's that is needed. And this is where I can see the trend lines too. I mean, that's probably not a high enough power, like a scientist as a business person, it's more of a social science, but so, okay, that's probably not enough power. But at the same time, it's very consistent. They continue to be consistent, the different questions and the challenges that people have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Amazing. I mean, I think it's a really needed service, and I'm so glad that you're doing that. And it is really fun because, I mean, not like fun and games fun, but I think that it's really nice to have a place to turn to have questions answered when, and I'm sure it can be like anonymous, right?
It can be, but I usually ask people to put their names and their emails in because I go back and tell everybody, even if I have a consolidation episode where it was multiple questions, and I took all the questions and then I choose one question that it might have the most context to it. So there are some that just says, my boss is mean to me. What do I do? That's not a lot of context. But there are a lot of them that are like, I've been at my job for this many years. There was just a reorg and now I'm reporting to a new manager and I can't figure this manager out. On one day they do say this, on the other day they say that, and I can't just ask them because I'm not comfortable.
Right.
So I will choose the context that offers the most breadth and this broad view of what the actual issue is.
Right.
And then I'll email everybody that's associated with that question.
And say this
And I
question was
say,
just
this is-
answered in.
This is when it's going to drop. This is where you can see. And that way, when people ask me the question, they know when their question's going to be answered.
Right. Oh,
And-
that's great.
Yeah, that's so. You can submit an anonymous question, but then what? You're going to listen to every episode? Great, listen to every episode. That's great. I love that.
Not mad at that.
Listen to every episode. Or I'm okay with you only listening to the episode that you care the most about because that happens to be the one that answers your question.
Right. Oh, I just meant like that you're not going to say the name online if they on the podcast if they're
Nope.
uncomfortable with
That's
that.
right. Yes. Yep, that's right. So yes, it's confidential in that way.
That's like full service, man. I mean, not only am I going to answer your question, I'm going to email you back and let you know when you're going to get the answer. That's awesome. I mean, that's just super cool. So askchrista.com, business owners, employees, if you have questions about business.
Yep,
Check in with
retirees
Christa.
even. There are a lot of retirees who've sent in for the third season. I had retirees saying, I retired a year ago. I want to get back into work. I want to do some consulting. What's the best way to go about it? Am I really too old? Am I looking at this the same way? I was with, so I say anyone who
I
has
love it.
even a curiosity about a business challenge or a workplace issue.
Ooh, I love that. That's really great. Thank you so much for starting your podcast, Christa. That's awesome. I mean, it just seems like it's so needed. And so we met through the New England Podcasters Group. The New England Podcasters Group is awesome. Anyone who's a podcaster or interested in podcasting, check out the New England Podcasters Group wherever we are, or wherever you are. But so we have a membership, and Christa is one of the members, of course. And so we were introducing ourselves, and I said that I have a podcast about sustainability, and Christa was like, "Oh my gosh, let me geek out for a second."
Yes.
Because I love dirt. And she had me at that. And so we are talking about dirt and more than dirt. So Christa makes her own dirt. And I'm going to have you talk about that yourself because it's more entertaining to me when you do it.
Okay, so I think true to my theme, so a lot of the work that I do is doing cleanup work. And a lot of the work I do is I go into a messy situation or a high stress situation or a situation where things aren't happening the way they expect to happen, and I say, okay, we can work with this. We can make something of this. We can change the trajectory of what you're doing, and we can, a lot of times it's a reset and recovery, which people may not buy into what I'm going to say, but bear with me. A lot of times it's about recycle. It's a recycle too. It's the same people who are doing the work, and you need them to reset their energy and change their mindset, or ask of the leaders, or sometimes demand of the leaders, that they change their mindset and they offer energy and they offer commitment back to the employees. But it's the same. It's like a recycle of their energy. Something that started to get old and tired. Yep. Exactly. It's like, how can we fortify that and regenerate something that matters more to your employees? And that is the job of leadership. You can't just take for granted and think, oh, the employees are here, they're being paid, they should do that. Great, they're going to do the job you're paying them for. But if you want to get the best out of your employees, you're going to instill some inspiration, get them motivated throughout their day, get them believing in the work they're doing and the value that they're adding in. And many times in a cleanup or a reset situation, you're recycling their energy. And so I tend to do that in a lot of aspects and areas of my life. And making dirt is one of those aspects of life. So I come from some green thumbs. My second cousin is the owner of Cavicchio Greenhouses. Cavicchio is my maiden name. And that is over 100 years old in terms of farming and so forth. They now do commercial grade shrubberies and flowers and things of that. If you go to a grocery store and you see during seasons, different seasons, you see the flowers that are outside, there's a 50% chance in certain areas that that's from Cavicchio greenhouses. There's a lot of green thumb in my family and in the bloodline. We all had, even on my mom's side, they all had gardens. They were farmers. They like to make their own things. So I have a lot of that too. And I tend to be obsessed with my yard. And it's not just the flowers and so forth. It's what makes the grass healthy and strong. And it's the soil. It's so many people focus on the seed. And for those who know, if they feel the same way about their lawn and their grass as I do, they know for sure it's the soil. It's not the seed. And so I moved into my house 13 years ago. And when I moved in, I bought the house from a very nice couple, and they mulched. And that's all I did. So grass clippings got back into the ground. So, well, what did you do for nutrition? What did you, we didn't do anything. Okay. And there was tired soil everywhere, to the point where at one point I was mowing the lawn and there was like dust coming up because of that. So I said, okay, we're going to recover this. We're going to reset it. We're going to recover. And I took every year I'd take different portions of the yard, and I would scoop up that dirt and I'd put it into a pile. So just on the corner of where the fences are.
Sure.
And I would build that up, and that's where the grass clippings would go. I mulch also, but I'd always do a big grass cut in the spring and then another one in the fall. And part of what I was doing was building dirt. I was creating dirt. And it's one of those things that I think when we think of, I know you're going to ask me this later, if I'm going to preempt now a little bit. When we think of sustainability, I think of something that can perpetuate itself. So it's something that you start, and then with just a little bit of tending, it continues to go on and do what you're expecting it to do over time for a longer period of time. And I know one of the things you talk about a lot in your podcast is how the little things, like just doing a little thing here and there, or the simple and easy things, you don't have to go big. All at once. And I think making dirt is one of the great ways
for sure
to start small. So even the leaf cleanups that you do, you need things that are going to break down really fast, like a maple leaf, for example. I would not use an oak leaf. Those do not break down fast, but it's about putting it in the pile that turns into a compost pile. I do not put food waste in there. That's just going to attract your critters. But you need to have just a few things based on science. So you need to have, your base tired dirt, and then you need what's going to compost down, which usually gives you nitrogen, or you can also get a carbon foundation. You can actually have something that accelerates the breakdown of organic things. But most of the time, grass clippings will do it. A little bit of leaves, a little bit of other things. You start to churn it. You can just use a pitchfork or anything that's going to work for you, even a small rake. And it doesn't have to be big. It can just be like something this big. You want it to have heat. You want it to have some sunlight. And then it needs also a little bit of shade. So you have to figure out what's going to balance with the water and the heat and the sunlight. And then you just churn it like every couple of weeks. And usually within 6 months. So if you start this in late April. If you live in the New England area, it's probably going to be late April, early May is your first mow. If you live further south, it's probably going to be March that you have it. But you'd be surprised. You'll end up with dirt probably by August. And then when you take that dirt, you put it into the areas that were tired. And now you're recycling and reusing the tired dirt. You're fortifying it with new composted materials that then turn into dirt. And then in the fall, you do the same thing, except now you're doing with mulched leaves. And you still want some grass. You want something that, I always say, look for the chloroform, look for the green things, because that settles down nicely. Over winter, it breaks down. In the spring, you now have dirt. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
And I think you're very cute. I mean, I think it's so fun that you are you're just so smart, and you get so excited about this, and just the fact that you know the different leaves that are good and bad, and I think that's awesome. I think so. Oak leaves, don't use oak leaves.
Don't use,
because they don't break down.
They really don't break. They what's interesting is that I would say they disintegrate before they break down. So if you ever see a really old oak leaf, it usually looks almost like a web. Like you'll still actually.
Oh yeah. Like the little leaf goes away, but you can see the outline, and yeah.
And it's just not. It's almost like a fried egg. It just kind of disintegrates. Versus when you see something like birch is smaller, but any type of the early blooms or the early leaves that are out, those tend to be more simple in terms of its the fibrous structure of it. It tends to just break down, and you see that happen. I mean, if you look at a maple tree, I say maple leaves because most people know what a maple tree looks like. If I were to say something ash or something, I'd be like, I wouldn't know an ash if I bumped into it. So a maple, Canada maple leaves. Many times you'll see them dry up on the tree before they even drop. And then by the time they drop, just walk on them and they're going to crunch up. And they're the easiest things to mulch too. I tell everybody, always use some of that on your lawn in the fall to fortify for the spring.
Right. Oh gosh. That's really good. And I love that. I mean, I know, I think I told you that I did an episode with somebody who talked about making her own broth, and it's, it might not seem like a big deal, but at the same time, like, you're making it yourself, you know exactly what's in it, and it doesn't cost you anything. And so, like what you're saying, you're using your clippings, which you're doing anyway, you just put them together instead of, in the woods or whatever, like you just build that up and add, just tend it a little bit, like you were saying, to tend it a little bit, and really minor additions, that type of thing. And then you're making something brand new out of something that is old and tired.
Yeah, and something that can fortify the other old and tired areas of your lawn. And if you have a wooded area in your back and that's where you put all your lawn clippings or your leaf clippings, then just turn that. Every couple weeks, turn that. You'll still get soil underneath it all. I think that the trickiest part is making sure it's not too wet, because then you'll get mold. If you do get mold, you can usually smell it, and then you might see leaves that look white. If you usually get mold, that's okay. It's not black mold. It's not going to hurt you. Just flip it over or put it in the sun. Put it someplace where it needs to be warm. It needs to be wet enough to help it break down. So there's some chemistry associated with that, but just try it and see what happens. It's great to fortify your plants even in your house. It's great to fortify plants that you have all year round if you're not in temperate areas and you don't have anything growing outside between November and March. Once you get your flowers up and running again, take some of that soil that you've made and fortify your potted plants with the same soil.
I'm learning a lot already. I mean, I think when you were talking to the people that you bought your house from, and you said, "What are you feeding them?"
Yes.
And they're like, "What?"
You're like, "Nope."
Yeah, that's me. Water. I'm giving them water, and I give them worm poop and chicken poop and stuff like that. But to think about food. Duh. I mean, we need food. What doesn't need food? So that's it might not be like a super, I don't know, I'm trying to find the words, but like not a super exciting thing, but it makes a big difference. And I don't think that was quite the right words, but that's what I had.
No, I think you are right though. It's small but mighty. When you think of what it is you can accomplish by making your own dirt, it really. Most people make their own dirt and they don't even realize it. If you're mulching your lawn, you are fortifying that top layer of your soil. Now, going to at some point have to thatch because the soil needs some air.
Right.
And there are some instances where your lawn won't break down, or it'll just break down to a certain amount, and then it turns into straw, and then it actually constricts or restricts some of the sunlight that comes in, some of the water that's needed. But to your point earlier, if you are dumping your leaves in the back, or if you're doing something, just turn that. There are people who they'll put their grass clippings in the back, and then they can smell the grass. They're like, oh, it smells like ammonia. I'm like, yeah. It's breaking down.
It's not breathing. Yeah.
And that's the byproduct of something that's breaking down. So I'm like, when you smell that, just turn it, because and when the pile's big enough and you've been turning all along, just take 2 inches off the top of it. You will see soil underneath that, and it is the richest soil. It's that dark. It's almost like what I would consider the perfect frosting. It's like dark and rich, and it's like for the grass, it's a real treat. Or again, potted plants at the base of your trees, especially if you have cherry trees or trees that tend to be more finicky, or they succumb to fungal infections or something. These are ways that you can just add a little bit more, like you say, the food, what we were talking about. What do you feed it? Just a little bit more, and it just. If you're mowing anyway, even if you have somebody come over and they're the ones who mow your lawn, ask them to put it a certain place. And if you don't have one of those backyards, just take a corner where your fences are joined, and use that as your pile. And it doesn't have to look sloppy either. That's the other thing. Everyone has that one corner.
Right. Some people might be like,
I don't want a big heap of all this stuff. It doesn't have to look like that. And if you turn it, a lot of times you can build it up. You can have a little slope. It doesn't have to. You can even plant flowers there, right? So you have flowers in certain areas of your compost pile, and then the others where you grab the soil when you need it, and then you just rearrange it, make it look nice.
Toss a pumpkin seed in it.
You'll have vines everywhere pretty soon. But yes, that too.
Wow. Yeah, I love that, because I know some people are really weird about their lawns and like, oh, everything has to look so perfect, which is, I have feelings about that. I have strong feelings about that. But, like you were saying, it doesn't have to look dumpy or unattractive or anything like that. It's not a huge thing unless you make it a huge thing, but...
It really doesn't. And if you're going to create something, you should honor that anyway. So it shouldn't look unkept. It's something where you should be tending to it and nurturing that. You're creating something that's going to fortify areas that really need the help. It really needs. There are areas of everyone's lawn that needs recovery. Every season, every month. There are times when the spring's really wet and then the summer's really dry, and then suddenly you have one spot in your lawn where you have the big, you have your big what they call the burn circles, where it's like, okay, yeah, that's grass, it's dead now, likely a fungus issue. You have to scrape off the top of your soil. You now have soil you can fortify and put it in there and start anew. And if you're going to have something grow, the soil needs to be good.
You heard it here, guys. And I mean, so I'm going to say this again because it just is so, it's so powerful. But so what you said in your guest form, Christa, is that dirt is the foundation of everything that fuels life.
Yes.
And that's just, it is really powerful. And you think of it as dirt, but if you think about it this way, like that grows your food. And the healthier the soil, the healthier the food, and the healthier the person.
Yes. And the stronger the crop and the longer it lasts. And that's where the sustainability comes in. And we could say, okay, well, the ocean doesn't have soil in it. But most marine biologists will say, okay, it's not soil, I guess. But there are, where do the sponges grow? It's like there's something that plants in different areas. So I think it's changing the mindset to think of dirt as less is less dirty and more nurturing, more enabling, and a very powerful source of vitamins and minerals and things that if there is somebody who's really picky about their lawn, good. This should matter to you, because if your soil's not healthy, your lawn's not looking good.
Yeah. Ooh, that's really good. I say you're very cute, and I just mean it, like, I feel like you know everything about so much, and I think also when you said I'm going to geek out for a minute and just tell you how much I love dirt.
Yeah.
That is legit.
Yes.
I think
I wrote 7 paragraphs after that. All right, maybe not 7, maybe it was like 5, but yeah, I really geeked. I had to put the disclaimer because I knew it was coming. I'm like, okay, I'm going to.
But she was like, "Oh my gosh, was that too much?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, let's do this on a podcast because this is so important. We don't talk about it enough. We talk about, food security, and we talk about, growing your own food and stuff like that. But like, growing your own food starts with healthy soil. And so I think this is perfect. And, this will come out in January, February, which will be a great time to like start thinking about
the spring.
Spring?
Yeah. Or at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, thinking about the spring.
Right?
Everyone else
it'll be close to
fall. In the southern hemisphere, they're thinking about the fall. And that's when you want to mulch your leaves.
Yep.
And get a nice rich pile going that's going to break down during winter and help you fortify in the spring.
Right. Just not oak leaves. Remember that, you guys.
Not oak leaves. It just doesn't, it won't do anything. The mighty oak, that is for real. Even the leaves.
The mighty oak. Is it? That's not why they say that. Whoever they is.
Whoever they is. Well, it's, the acorn can withstand incredible torture from the weather. The oak is strong and mighty from this little tiny itty bitty acorn, what it grows into.
Right.
It goes on and on for a really long time. It's hard. It doesn't get sick frequently. There's not a lot of fungal issues. There's not a lot of, insect issues. Typically, it's hardwood and so forth. So, but you can see it. You definitely,
see it.
You look at different seeds and you could probably rip a portion of it or step on it and squish it. You can't do that with an acorn.
Acorn, you're going to fall on your bum.
Yeah. Acorn's like, not on my watch.
They're going to take you out. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Try to step on me again. See what happens.
I dare you. Try to crush me.
Yeah.
I think people that geek out are just like the most fun because you just get so excited about it, and I think you really get it, which is very exciting. I think it's it gets me excited, and it makes me want to do better and make sure that I am feeding my lawn. I don't really feed my plants inside either.
Okay. All right. If they're thriving, you're doing what's needed.
They're doing okay.
But every now and then, give them a little frosting. Give them a little treat.
A little frosting. Oh my gosh. So, I just thought that, I think that, Christa, as a senior advisor, consultant person, mentor, like, to also have this other side. You're like multifaceted. There are so many things that you love, but I love that you're like, business girl, boss babe, but then you're also like, oh my gosh, look at that beautiful soil. And I just think I think that's really fun to see that it just, it gives you life. I think it excites you, and you're not like, I don't know. I have this generalization, I guess, of business people as just being like stalwart and sort of robot-y, and definitely not that, but just to see, you put your passion into everything that you do, because you seriously, I mean, with your business work, you give it everything. And not only that, you have this podcast that is free to people.
Yes.
This service, and also, your gardens and your lawn and the dirt. I think it's, you seem to be very well rounded, and I just think it's exciting to see people that get really excited about stuff.
Yes, well, I definitely have puppy energy when it comes to dirt. But I think like I said earlier, it's very thematic too, because I am an excitable person for things that make a difference. And I remember a couple of years ago, somebody asked me, I was thinking about shifting. I've shifted gears a couple times. I've always done the work that I'm doing now, but I've been in and out of different industries, which is why Impono does an array of things for various industries. And she asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I said, make an impact, like instantly. I'm like, make an impact. And she laughed and said, oh, that's such a Christa answer. I meant, are you ready for the CEO role? She was expecting me to talk about a title.
Oh.
And, I went back to purpose. So we all have a limited time in life, and that limited time might be 120 years, and for most people it's fewer years than that. I think that it is a wondrous life to have if you can feel excited about things, genuinely excited. Mm-hmm. And I feel fortunate to feel that way. Some of it's just my personality, my puppy energy. But I also decided probably about 25, maybe 30 years ago, that was the life I wanted. And part of it is because of my personality. I mean, imagine me with my puppy energy and being that stalwart,
Right.
So I will say this about business people. The best business people I've worked with are very passionate. Mm-hmm. And they bring their energy in every day, and that's how they get the best out of their employees. And those stalwart folks, they're not very successful. Mm-hmm. If that's how people envision business people, I think Hollywood has something to do with that.
Right. Yes.
And, a couple of other things that can shape our opinion and our thoughts about just broad ranges of who looks like what and how people behave.
Yeah.
But the truth is, too, there's a lot of people in positions where they just don't feel passionate about the work they're doing.
Right.
And I think if anything's worthwhile, you should feel, a little bit of passion. There's stuff that I do that I don't feel passionate about. There are times when I just have to, do it, get it done.
Right.
Log it, move on.
Do something fun.
Yeah. But if you can find something that makes you feel excited, and you're not the first person who was interested or surprised in my passion for dirt. But I just think it's one of those things that at some point we don't play with it like we did when we were kids. At some point we feel like it's more of an intrusive aspect of our life if it gets on our clothes or our shoes or whatever it might be. So if you look at things through the lens of purpose and you see what it is that it can enable and how it can improve things, then I think it gets the honor it deserves.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, that everyone needs to find something that really lights them up. You just happen to have lots of those things, which I think is awesome. But, I was just thinking of the episode that you were talking about with, that I listened to, the person that was bored at work. Like, you have to find something to supplement that, whether it be, something at work or something outside of work. Like you need to, you can't just live in this like blah state. That's not sustainable at all.
For a long, not sustainable, not for a long term. And that particular listener, I think, was like about a year, they were waiting for some changes to take place. And that's, we all have cognitive limits also. There's only so many mental crossword puzzles we can do to keep our work going.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that I think it's a really exciting conversation to have. I mean, about business and about soil. And it's, especially this is going to be coming out middle-ish of winter,
Yeah.
depending on where you are, of course. But, just keep this in mind, you guys, about, make sure to utilize what you have, and you don't need to buy. I mean, that was the thing that really excited me with what you were talking about, because, how much do you pay for those bags of soil and compost and all this stuff? And you're just like, no, I'm just using what I cut and what I raked, and it doesn't cost anything. You know exactly what's in there. It takes very little work.
Very little time too. That's the cost. Is the time that takes, but it's very little. And you could always buy a bag of soil and fortify your compost with that. If you need like a starter bag going, if you have a lot of
right,
a lot of tired, sandy soil, and mix it in, get that bag and mix it in. But then after that, you're home free.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, unless you buy the really high end soil, you're going to end up with mulch. You're going to end up with things in there that isn't fully soil.
Right.
Which, if you just need a little bit of topsoil for a spot here or there, sure, have at it. But if you want to eventually change your yard, or just have a reserve of good soil, because everyone's going to have problem spots in their yard at one point or another. It's just, that's the way it works. So you'll have a reserve of soil ready to go, ready to rock and roll.
So good. Oh my gosh. And so I know that you already answered the question about what the word sustainability means to you, and I appreciate that. And so you said askchrista.com, because you're not on the socials really. Right. And that's the best way to find you. And you can read, and you can access the podcast from there as well.
Yep, you can submit your question. You can access the different seasons. It's also, there's categories, so that if you just want to say, okay, I want to learn about leadership and management, I want to learn about small businesses, I want to understand strategy better, you can look at the different categories and go by that. Or you can look thematically at the seasons and pick and choose from the different topics that go there. And each, of course, just like any podcast, each one has a summary, key takeaways, but I also have the resources listed right in the show notes, so that even if you're like, okay, maybe I'll save this for later, like, take advantage of the resources that I provide. If there's something where you're like, or there could be a case where, that topic hits too close, I just can't listen to anything related to that topic. That's okay. Pay attention to the resources, because there might be something that you read that can help you along, or heal something within you that needs some of its own nurturing. And that'll help you find your way out of that space, so that you can make some changes from a business perspective or a work perspective, and make your life a little bit better and easier. I also have a weekly newsletter, More Answers, and you'll be able to find the archives on my website.
Oh, more answers. So ones that you didn't tackle on the podcast, you still answer questions on the newsletter?
I do. Or sometimes it's just,
I mean, if you're getting 30 to 50 a week.
Yeah. So it is more answers that way. Or sometimes it's just more of what I already addressed, but I wasn't going to go further into a certain aspect of it. It was, here's something else that you should be thinking about when it comes to certain things. It could be like how to use your time, or the one that I just released was why New Year's resolutions can often hold you back. And I talk about, I have a bearded dragon who's like amazing, Cleopatra. She's my favorite. I have 2 dogs too, but Cleopatra is little Cleo. So I just talk about what she's taught me about time and time management, and, whether New Year's resolutions are all they're cracked up to be, and why they tend to peter out after a couple of months, and why you should forgive yourself for that and move on from it.
Right.
So, More Answers does provide more answers, a little more insight. So you can find the archive on my website, or you can sign up for the email as well.
Okay. That's awesome. And I love when people do like the extended show notes where you like list everything that you've researched and everywhere you got stuff. That's so awesome. Because I know sometimes you're like, I feel like there are some episodes from a podcast where I'm like, I really feel like I should learn more about that. I wonder where I'd go. Where where would I start with that?
Yeah, where do I go?
You don't have to
learn
think
more?
about that with Ask Christa. She's done the work for you.
Yeah, how can I learn? And I offer resources that have different points of view too, where they might include, a few additional things that I'm like, yeah, I don't think that it's as worthwhile, but I'm going to offer it anyway in case it is as worthwhile to you. I'll tell you, there are some podcasts I listen to, and I'm looking for the evidence of it. A lot of podcasts, again, they provide advice. We talked about this offline. It's like, I come from the land of most advice is opinion. It's not actually advice. So there are some times when, especially in the business that I'm in, where people offer all this exposition about how to run a business, or how to do a marketing campaign, or how to fix your operational strategy or manufacturing, and I'm like, where did that come from? That makes no sense at all, and it's not real advice. It's an opinion, and it's and so by offering resources, I'm trying to demonstrate that it's not coming just from my experience, but again, from empirical evidence, from actual studies that say you will have a much easier time with this if you look for these options and move forward in this way. It's going to save you time and energy and so forth. But if you don't want to do that, there's 2 or 3 other resources too.
Amazing. I mean, it's such a incredible resource for people in business and people thinking about business.
I hope so. Thank you.
And so before we close, I also want to thank you, Christa, one, for being here, but also for being my first interview on Riverside with my new recording. And she encouraged me so much when she was like, it's so easy. You just do it. Just try it. So here we are. She's my first, and I owe that to her.
Oh, thank you. And you're welcome.
Anyway, ask Christa, you guys, if you have any business questions or,
issues, challenges.
Yep.
If it's something that you don't know where to bring it, who to ask. If you're embarrassed about something, my manager yelled at me. That was one of the earlier episodes. My manager interrupts me in front of my team. How do I manage this? So there's whatever it might be, send it in.
We either own businesses or we work for businesses, and everyone's got questions. So there's always Christa.
That's Christa.
I just want to take a second to thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I love having these conversations with folks. I also want to thank Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her music genius, Becca Coffron and her award-winning artwork. And thank you for listening. I appreciate that so much. Please check out the show notes for any links and extra information. If you would like to follow my guest and find out more about them, I'm sure they would love the follow. If you don't mind leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening, to get this podcast in front of new eyes, I would really love that. Feel free to reach out to me on the socials and let me know what you're thinking. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please let me know that. I would love to have a conversation with you about sustainability. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound to find me. the sickness, will heal the ache, with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder,